Hi, in this video I want to show you how to make use of WAX, which is a Lua to Objective-C bridge within your Gideros applications. Now, as you probably know, Gideros includes a plug-in system which allows you to write C++ or Objective-C code and call it directly from your application. But what this tends to mean is you end up writing quite a lot of binding functions which are purely there to bind to existing functions inside the underlying iOS library. Now with WAX, this binding is performed automatically, and this gives you virtually untethered access to the Apple libraries without having to jump through hoops to get there. So what I want to do is to show you how to set up your Gideros application or player to be able to use WAX. So WAX itself is a great piece of code, originally written by Corey Johnson, and I've had to make a few minor modifications to his code. So I've created a duplicate GitHub repository with these modifications in, so you can see the changes that have been made. So I'm now going to go through the complete steps required to build a Gideros player that can make use of WAX from within it. So the first thing to be aware of is that the Bauhaus libraries actually have to live in a particular directory structure in order for them to work straight out of the box. I've created a folder called My Gideros, and beneath that a currently empty library folder. We are going to put my Bauhaus libraries inside that library folder, and they should be able to find each of their constituent parts readily. So first of all, let's go and take the bhwax repository. You could either clone it or you can download a zip file. For the time being, I'm going to download a zip file. Okay, and I'm going to pull that into my library folder. And now we shall go and take the Corey Johnson WAX repository, which is my modified version of Corey's original code, and download that as a zip file. And once again we'll transfer that over into the library folder. Now let's change these names just to bhwax and also to Corey Johnson WAX. And the Bauhaus libraries in fact should live inside a directory called Bauhaus. So with that we should all be set up. Now let's open up the Gideros iOS player inside Xcode. The steps we use here will be the same if you're creating your own application, but I'll just show you for the player. So let's go to Xcode and open the iOS player. Okay, and now what we're going to have to do is to copy some files across into this. First of all, let's go to the Bauhaus directory and drill down into bhwax, go into the plugin folder and the iOS folder, and you'll see we have two Objective-C files in here. The first is the plugin itself, which we're going to drag both of these across into the plugins folder. Choose not to copy the items, but make sure the target is the Gideros iOS player. Okay. And the next thing we need to do is to copy the actual WAX system itself. So if we pop back up into Corey's original source, we don't need a lot. There's a lot of extra stuff here, so we don't need to copy all of that. We're going to go into the lib folder, and you'll see that we have a number of files in here. So basically we can take all of these files and copy those into the project too. Make sure once again Gideros iOS player is ticked but not the copy. Okay, And so the next thing to do is to find in the Xcode template, you will see that there is a file called, in classes directory, a file called protocolloader.h. That needs to be moved across as well. And one last file is in the lib directory in Lua. We're going to need to take lobject.h. Okay, and now let's try a build of this. So now let's try running it on an actual device. I've got the iPad connected, so let's choose to run it. Okay, and there's a plugin waiting for us. So now we need to load Gideros Studio. And let's choose the Wax demo project. And set up the player to be the right IP address. And now we can tell it to run. There we go. And so what we have here is a native iOS image picker, and I can choose an image from my photo library. Okay, and that's been saved down as a PNG file, and Gideros has now loaded it into one of its own bitmap sprites, which we see here. And there's a piece of text we can choose to edit, which is the title. This is a multi-line text view. Okay. That alert there is actually put up by Gideros. It's one of the Gideros native alert boxes. And we have another little Gideros button down here, which we can use to embed a YouTube player, all by the magic of Wax and Objective-C. Now, one of the interesting things about this demonstration is that it came about because I've been writing several iOS plugins for Gideros recently, and one of the plugins I wrote originally was a thing called BH Image Picker, which was a way of bringing up an image picker using a wrapper around the normal functions. And you'll see that this file is actually relatively long and has around about 430 lines in it. Now, if we take a look at the version we've just seen in the Wax demo, there's a Lua class here called iOS Image Picker, and if I bring that up for you and just maybe give it a bit more space, you can see that it does basically the same thing, and yet it all fits in 126 lines. You can see it's doing the same sort of stuff. We can use UI popover controllers and modal view controllers with an image picker controller, and so all of this is pretty straightforward Objective-C code, although it's been written in Lua, and there's no need for any memory management because the Lua garbage collector deals with it all, and so it makes things very much simpler. So I hope you'll agree with me that the use of Wax inside Gideros is going to allow us to do some pretty tremendous things on the iOS platform. Thanks for watching.